I find it very ironic that the fourth attempt at bringing these characters to the big screen is when we finally get our first good movie from them. I gotta say, that's fantastic.
Say that again?
We will fight it together. As a family.
The Fantastic Four fight Galactus and the Silver Surfer in the third movie to come out in the last couple months, starring Pedro Pascal in the Fantastic Four First Steps. It's no secret that the Fantastic Four have had a very, very, very rough journey when it comes to big screen adaptations. The two movies from the early 2000s, while bright and colorful, seemed very disinterested in having the team do any actual crime fighting and was more focused on their celebrity status.
After all, we're both doctors.
The 2015 film tried taking a more darker approach at these characters, but ironically it made them more boring than the previous movies, and was so dark that even most of the scenes in the movie were dark. Literally. Seriously, do these scientists not like working with lights on? Don't they want to see the actual stuff they're doing?
Hey, Clobber in town.
Fox never seemed to get these characters right, but hope shone through in 2019 when Disney acquired Fox, and thus Marvel can now directly adapt these characters for the big screen. And yes, while I was excited to see Marvel directly adapt these characters to the big screen, I was still concerned. 1, we hadn't gotten a good Fantastic Four movie yet. 2, Marvel's track record was still very spotty post-Endgame. And 3, the casting choices just seemed very weird to me. Like, Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards, Joseph Quinn as Johnny Storm. This just didn't seem right. So while I didn't have high expectations for this like I did for Superman, I was expecting this to be passable at best. However, I was completely proven wrong. Not only is this the best Fantastic Four movie, I think this is my favorite Marvel film since Spider-Man No Way Home. My favorite thing about this movie is just the overall aesthetic of it and how it separates itself from the rest of the MCU. The alternate 1960s futuristic world this takes place in is very creative, allowing these characters to embrace their 60s comic book origins with the costume design, the production design, and even the score. Michael Giacchino did a phenomenal job with the score, and you already know he did a great job when the theme for the Fantastic Four from this film is already iconic before the movie had even come out. Pedro Pascal surprisingly turned out to be a very engaging Reed Richards. He's able to get the intelligent and calculated leader aspects of this character down, while handling a lot of the emotional scenes very well with characters like Sue Storm. I was also pleasantly surprised at Joseph Quinn's interpretation of Johnny Storm, as they make him a very reliable character while still keeping a lot of the ladies' man and hot-headed aspects of his character down. Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm was also very fun to see, as she's able to kick a ton of ass while showcasing some sweet motherly aspects when handling her newborn child, Franklin. When talking about the two villains in this movie, I've surprisingly found Shia LaBeouf, the Silver Surfer, to be the most interesting character. I wasn't familiar with Shia LaBeouf, only really Norrin Rad, but I found her backstory to be very interesting in this movie. She also has a ton of really cool action sequences, specifically one involving a black hole, and it makes me really curious to see what they could do with this character in the future, or if they're just going to stick to the other Silver Surfer. While the other villain, Galactus, is very light on backstory and character, makes up for it in just the scale and tension that this dude has. The first time we see Galactus in this film is where all the characters look up into pure darkness in a ship, and then you see his eyes light up. That gave me chills. Ralph Ineson's performance was also incredibly intimidating, with his voice just shaking the seats. The scenes with Galactus are why you have to see this film in IMAX, as the sense of scale and dread throughout the film is just massively amplified with the extra image on the screen. The CG effects in the film were also pretty good, especially with The Thing, the Silver Surfer, and of course Galactus. And the CG does a really good job at making the action sequences very exciting, especially one like I mentioned earlier involving a black hole, which had a lot of clear homages to Interstellar using many similar camera shots. What I found quite surprising was the dreadful and somber tone throughout this film, as it definitely stands out from the rest of the MCU. With Galactus being the constant dread and threat throughout the entire film, the story takes itself a lot more seriously and there's not that many jokes in the film, which I found quite refreshing. But it also leaves me to wonder, how does the previous Marvel film that has themes of depression and suicide have more jokes and is more silly than a film about a planet-eating celestial? Think about that. I will go into my problems with the movie, which tend to stem from the lack of development in some of its characters. Ebon Moss-Backrack was really good as The Thing or Ben Grimm, but he just didn't have a lot to do in this movie. They tried giving him a romance subplot with Natasha Lyonne, but he only has like 2 scenes with her, and it just didn't feel that developed. They also try to show that he feels disconnected from society, and I wish the film had delved into more detail about that. And like I said before, Galactus isn't that fleshed out of a villain compared to the Silver Surfer, as we don't even know that much about who he is and why he even destroys planets. I know from the comics that he destroys planets because that's the only way he can survive, from the cosmic energy, but the film doesn't even address that. And this stems from a problem that I'm starting to know on social media, that a lot of scenes seem to be missing from the film. John Malkovich was supposed to play the Red Ghost. He's nowhere to be found. There's supposedly character interactions that were completely missing. Even some scenes of Sue Storm and Reed Richards giving a tour of the Baxter Building seem to be cut. It felt like Marvel wanted to cut any potential fat from this movie just to make sure that we got a good Fantastic Four movie, because they probably had a lot riding on them with this. But honestly, they should have kept at least some of the fat in, because I feel like it would have fleshed out some of the characters. And while I did say that the effects were solid, there's times where the effects look kinda hit and miss, especially with Franklin. It's very clear that in some shots the baby is CG, and it looked very distracting. It didn't look Twilight bad per se, but it was definitely noticeable. Overall, the Fantastic Four First Steps is the most riveting adaptation of these characters we've gotten so far, with fun action, enjoyable characters, and an interesting world that stands out from the rest of the MCU. It wasn't exactly fantastic, but it was the first steps towards a brighter future for these characters. I'm gonna give the Fantastic Four First Steps an 8 out of 10. Definitely go check this out. And that was my thoughts on the movie. What did you guys think of it? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Make sure to tell me down in the comments. Make sure to like and subscribe and hit that bell. And I'll see you guys in the next review. Take care.